Yeah, because
decent price. I might get one myself.
You should, man. They're
just
so
for the
good.
reporting stuff, you know, like.
Yeah, no, it's really good because you know you can just sort of get your camera there. It comes with one of the clickers as well. Yeah, I broke my clicker as well.
So you could be further away and you could just start recording.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's really good stuff.
Sometimes
it's like
£20. If you could send me the link, that'd be great. Because sometimes I'll record stuff or I'll be doing interviews and stuff. But it'd be nice to do more like sort of video stuff, you know, on like a picket line. When they're campaigning, when they're on strike. Like I'll just interview people, I'll take videos, but to do it together would be amazing.
I would love to. I'd absolutely love to do that. Yeah. We're rolling, by the way. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Luton's Deadpool podcast with me, Luton's Deadpool, and my amazing, esteemed guest today, Taj Ali. This guy is incredible. He's a journalist, and not only just that, but he's a powerful man who's just a force of nature. He's promoting change, and he's fighting for the people in the striking at the moment. And honestly, I'm just going to mess the whole thing up if I just keep waffling about how great you are. but seriously, Taj is amazing. Does so much good stuff. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me today, Taj. And sorry, everybody, my mic isn't working, so I'm having to talk like this. So yeah, Taj, it's so good to see you. And I've been wanting to have you on for quite a while now, but you're just so busy because of everything that's going on in the world. Some pretty crazy stuff that's going on in the world, and especially in Luton, there's a lot of stuff that's happening to this town. But let's start off with some good stuff because you just got some good news today about the building that we're filming in.
Yeah, right? I mean, we're currently in Marsh House, which is a formerly derelict farmhouse, which was 17th century farmhouse, a very old building that was brought back into community use through grassroots community organising in Marsh Farm. And some of the people involved, Glenn Jenkins, Steve, who we spoke to just earlier, they put in a lot of work, going around the estate, getting people involved. We've got the first black radio station in Luton here, based here, Luton Urban Radio.
Yeah, I've been on a couple of times.
I mean, currently here, I'm in a working space where I'm paying like £25 a week, and I've got constant access to this office. You've got other people working from the same building. And it's all about, social good. It's all about supporting the local community. And it's amazing. And, they had a long-running dispute with the council around rent. This building was completely transformed. And if you take a tour of this building, you can see the amount of work they've put in to bring it back into use. And there was no recognition of the work that was put in. Local community coming in, doing unpaid work. No recognition of that, and they've currently gone to court. They've just won a judicial review of a council decision, and it looks likely that actually, yes, the council's going to back down. They're going to acknowledge such an amazing, an amazing project. That's just something that I brag about this place all the time to people outside of Luton, because you've empowered local people. You've got unemployed people working in this building, transforming it, and you're making a difference.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, what Marsh House is to me is a community hub for this town. It's the story of Marsh House is beautiful as well, from how it's changed over generations.
100%.
It's always kind of been the same thing, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's a place where people come together, and to see that spirit's being continued today, and not just being continued today, but this is like the place where plans are being made
100%.
to support people. And, it's getting more valuable as time goes on. So I feel really happy that this has been the outcome today. So congratulations to everyone at Marsh House who fought tirelessly to get this to happen. So well done to you guys. But for you, how did you first get? Let's actually rewind, because in fact, oh my gosh, I just remembered something.
Yeah.
I put my phone on airplane mode.
Good shout.
I was certain that this is. Oh, now it's telling me. Are we even recording still now? Sorry for the technical.
No problem.
Problems. I think it's still recording. Okay, we're on airplane mode. Yeah, because I would hate if somebody decides to call me and cancel the podcast. And what happened with Bassett? Did Bassett tell you about this?
No, you didn't.
He didn't tell you about this.
I think you mentioned there was some sort of issue or something.
Oh, me and Bassett had a massive problem. We recorded a podcast that lasted about 50 to an hour, right? And I got up to check at the end. It was amazing. The conversation we had, the back and forth.
I can imagine.
It's really interesting, and he's such an intelligent guy,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, we had a great time. I get up, screen's black. I was like, what the hell's happened? About halfway through, someone's phone.
And it
but
stopped
then
recording.
not only that, but the mics failed at about 4 minutes. So
I see.
So yeah, the entire podcast was a scrap.
But it meant you got the chance to do it again, right?
Yeah, we did. We got a chance to do it again. It worked ish. It still didn't work perfectly, but it worked. It worked pretty well. We didn't have as much time, but yeah, I'd love to have Basil. I'd love to have the two of you on at the same time.
That'd be good.
That would be
He's
really
my neighbour,
interesting.
actually. Yeah.
He's your neighbour as well.
Yeah. He doesn't live far from me. Just
really?
a few roads down. Yeah.
No way. You know, the first one I filmed at his house as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, and his mum was in the back.
Yeah. I've been there quite a few times. FIFA and all the rest of it.
Oh man, yeah, of course. You two play FIFA?
Yeah.
Oh, who's better?
I'd probably say Bassett. I mean, don't tell him that.
He's gonna know now.
He's been playing for years, so I always hold that against him.
I want to challenge. I'm pretty good at FIFA, man.
Yeah,
Would you play PS or Xbox?
PlayStation,
PlayStation. Okay, I'm gonna have to throw out a challenge to Bassett. Yeah. Anyway, sorry about it. I'm just digressing massively. So yeah, let's talk about you properly now. So. You're from Luton, yeah? Yeah,
born and bred.
Where did you grow up?
So I lived in the same house all my life. I live in the Chorney area. You know, my dad came to this country when he was about 5 or 6 years old. He grew up here in the 60s and 70s. Very rough back then. A lot of racism, a lot of roads you couldn't walk through. And yeah, I grew up in the Chorney area. Absolutely loved high school. I went to Chorney Boys. Had some good memories, and yeah, I went to university, Warwick University in Coventry, for a few years, and here I'm back.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see that you decided to come back. A lot of people go off and they achieve, and then they turn their back on us.
I mean, I think the good thing about Luton is we've got amazing transport links. So a lot of jobs are in London at the moment, and we have that privilege because we can get into London and back. You look at the house prices now in London, ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, crazy,
so like, as much as we talk about, you know, class in Luton, I mean, if you look at going up north, places like Bradford and Manchester, in a way they've got less opportunities than us because they don't have that easy access to the same jobs.
Yeah, it's very true actually, because obviously just having that close proximity it does tend to help. It's a shame that that's the way that things are, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you go up north, these towns and the cities are beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason why they shouldn't do as well as London.
100%.
You know, you've got places like Manchester or Leicester. Or Sheffield. I love Sheffield. Man. It's one of my favourite places to go in the UK. But there's some really cool places as you go up north. And yeah, it's just a shame that this is kind of just the proximity problem. And not just that, but like when, you know, we had a lot of factories up there.
Yeah.
And they're all gone because we outsourced to other countries.
That's
which is a good thing. You know, it was good to outsource in some ways because it help bring some of those countries forward a little bit, right? But then at the same time, it's taken a lot from the north, and it's kind of introduced like quite poor behaviour abroad and how they treat their staff and the pay conditions abroad. You know, they don't have the same protections as what we do. So, you know, it's a bit of a like. Yeah,
I mean, Luton sometimes gets described as a northern industrial town in the south.
Yeah.
You know, a sort of mini kind of Bradford almost, like because we've got a lot of industry in Luton. We had the hat making industry, brick making was a big thing in Luton. Vauxhall, my dad worked at the Vauxhall factory, and in 2002, a lot of people in the town were made redundant. And growing up, I think almost everyone I knew had some sort of relative or friend who'd worked at the Vauxhall factory. It was a massive employer. So even in Luton, like we can see the consequences of deindustrialization and not having anything. Afterwards, you know, a lot of South Asians, for instance, they went into the taxi trade. It's not exactly the greatest pay and it's quite precarious because, you know, you're working for every single penny. It's not like you're getting a fixed salary at the end of the month.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make things easy at all, and we were kind of left behind in that respect because we got, like you say, we had quite a thriving industry in Luton at one point. Would have been a great place to live throughout, you know, maybe the 60s and 70s. Would have been really thriving, bustling, hustling sort of town.
Yeah.
But then as time's gone on, we've just grown weaker and weaker and received absolutely zero help from the government. And, you know, because of this, a lot of the people who make Luton great tend to leave because they deserve better than this. You know what I mean? Everybody deserves better than this. But the ones that have a chance to escape, they escape.
100%. And even amongst my friends, a lot of my friends who moved out to university, they don't want to live in Luton. for much longer. They're looking to leave. They are probably one of the only reasons they haven't is because of the house prices.
Yeah.
I mean, for a young person today, either you're going into London or somewhere like that, and all your wages are going on rent, or you're saving and you're staying at home and you're looking to get a place, and even that is very unrealistic these days. It takes years.
I mean, wasn't there a Conservative guy that asked something about his employee and how she was living in a flat share, and it was like £900 a month or something for one room in a flat share, and he sort of like bragged about how she's able to save and do all of this stuff. But she, you know, her salary was fairly good still, and it wasn't like a good brag. Do you know what I mean?
I mean that stuff. So that was Lee Anderson, Conservative.
That's him.
MP.
Oh my god, what
and the thing is, like, my job involves industrial coverage, so covering strikes. So I interview workers, often like hearing those real stories about how they're struggling to make ends meet. And sometimes people will tell me, you know, they're using food banks, they're in debt, they're having to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. And obviously I'll report these things, and sometimes I'll get told, I earn less than that person, but I'm not struggling. I've not had to use a food bank. But income alone doesn't determine your living chances. You know,
it's true.
Look at the cost of childcare now in London. It's ridiculous.
I can't even imagine. I know what it is for here, and I can't imagine.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So people's circumstances vary, and I think that stuff, you know, I've had people literally break down in tears on the phone to me, just describing the struggles that they're going through at the moment, and it really puts things into perspective when you hear it very raw, you know.
Yeah, no, of course, I totally feel that, man. It's not a good situation. It breaks my heart, you know, when I know that there's kids that are going into school hungry, and I know that there's parents that are so scared of putting the radiators on.
Yeah,
and it's been cold as hell.
It's
been brutal. I mean, you know, I'm lucky, man. I've got enough to get by on, right? And even as things are getting more expensive, I'm just about balancing everything.
Yeah,
but it's getting harder and harder. I don't know how someone who is, you know, working part time because they don't have a choice, they can't afford the childcare. I don't know how they're surviving at the moment.
I mean, I was speaking to a junior doctor, and you know, they're currently balloting for strike action. And most people, when they hear junior doctor, they think, wow, it's such a prestigious job, you know, to get into medicine. Especially amongst a lot of Pakistanis, it was something your parents always push, you know, get into medicine, it'll be amazing. They're struggling. You know, I spoke to one junior doctor who has kids, who basically told me that it's actually cheaper for her to stay at home with her kid than take on an extra shift as a junior doctor, because childcare is so expensive. Like, her wages will literally not even cover her childcare. So she's actually losing out by going into work.
Yeah, see, that is failure.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, of a societal level, that is a failure. How you can sit there and say that people are making that decision, that it's either I stay at home and I don't do things that would better myself, and, you know, better my family's chances of survival, not just that, of thriving as well. But instead, you know, I'm going to stay at home because I can't physically afford to go to work. That doesn't make any sense.
And what's the consequence of that? Junior doctors are so vital right now, especially, you know, you look at COVID and, you know, some of the problems we have in the NHS. And these are people who spent 6 years in medical school. They're coming out with over 100k of debt.
Yeah,
they're paying for parking. You know, politicians aren't paying for parking.
No,
they're paying for parking. They're not getting their meals subsidized by the taxpayer. Politicians are. And it's just completely different worlds. And they are people who bring so much value to this country, to our society, to our communities. And I'm sure all of us have had experiences in the health system where we've relied on those people. And, you know, it's sometimes when I think about it, I just think you couldn't be any more detached from the struggles of everyday working people when you come out and say things like they need to work harder or they need to exercise pay restraint. And then it doesn't come as a surprise when a lot of those people who make the decisions in government, they're using private healthcare. They go into private schools. They will never understand the struggles of working people.
Do you know what? One of the biggest slaps in the face that I saw across the time when they were saying those sort of things. It was crazy. It was just as the cost of living was starting to spiral out of control, you was getting these really rich MPs come out and start dictating to poor people how to live, and I couldn't believe it. One of the worst ones I saw was when Boris came out and said, all you need to do is get a new kettle.
Yeah.
All you need to do is get a new kettle. It's going to save you £10 a year.
Yeah.
£10 a year. Do you know how much £10 a year can get you? Nowadays, if I go to the corner shop, this is how I judge. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
This is how I judge life.
Yeah.
I judge it by like how many Freddos and how many
Freddos
bags
are
of
ridiculous.
crisps, how many bottles of Coke can I get at the shop.
For me, it's the chicken and chips, man. I remember there was a time when you get one piece chicken and chips for like £1.
£1, yeah.
And now you look at £3, you're like, no, something's gone wrong here. This can't be right. It can't be going up that quickly.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense. But like they say things like £10 a year you can save yourself, and they seem to think that that's going to fix the problem. And like they can't be that stupid. Right? They can't. There's got to be some sort of a motive here.
Yeah.
In my eyes, maybe I'm getting conspiratorial and that line of thinking, but it does kind of feel like the things that they come out with to tell people how to do things correctly.
Yeah.
It's not feasible, and it's just really small changes that don't add up to a big thing. Like what would really help is better pay.
The thing is when you grow up without much in terms of income, you're already doing things on the cheap anyway. You're going to the car boot sale. You're not buying Sky. You know what I mean? You've got the 4 channels on the telly. That's what it was like. And if there's anyone who understands how to live efficiently and how to not waste, it's people who struggle the most. They appreciate the value of things. In my experience anyway, I don't know if you agree, but I've often found it's the people with the least that give the most.
100%.
When I'm walking down the street, I know people who more likely to give to the homeless are people who don't have very much themselves. And when I went to university, that was when it really hit me, the class divide, because I was studying with some of the most privileged people in the world.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to generalize here. There are some amazing people who don't choose, what background they're born into. But I noticed that, with my friends in Luton, there was this sense of solidarity, of community, of we're all in this together. Whereas with people from well-off backgrounds, I found that it was a lot more individualistic.
Yeah.
This is my thing and that's mine and I'm not going to share it. I found that very interesting, seeing that divide, and it really made me think, actually, regardless of how much money they're making, there's certain things they'll never have.
Yeah.
There's certain things they'll never benefit from and never get to experience. And there's a certain joy about being in a diverse working class community like Luton, where everyone's looking out for each other. We've recently just had these earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, and the communities they've come together. You know what I mean? They've come together. The mosques are doing clothing drives. My mum was saying to me, find some clothes, let's bring it together, let's go down and give it. And people on WhatsApp groups are asking the same thing. Where can I donate clothes to? How can I support these people?
Yeah. Hello. How you doing? What's this you got there?
He wants to take a little snap of you.
Oh yeah, cool. Let me check my phone whilst we're doing this.
Yeah.
Just in case.
He wants to catch you in the action.
Let me just check your mic as well, because I can't see if it's still on. Yes, it is.
It's on, yeah.
Oh, you don't understand the stress that I go through.
I can imagine.
I try to just be in the conversation and part of any of this recording.
No. When we used to do our podcast, but even actually when I'm doing my interviews with people, I'm always having to check. This is recorded.
Is it working? I know it does so much stress in the brain, right?
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I think when I was in my final year at uni, I don't know if you met Fahim Qureshi. He was involved with the art scene in Luton. Really interesting guy that you should speak to. But he set up the Luton Youth Movement, which was a sort of anti-racist movement in the 70s and 80s. Fascinating group that they would literally organise self-defence of Asian families in places like Marsh Farm. Yeah. And they did a lot of organising against the National Front. So I was going to interview him for a public history project. And so we're sat down in the Hat Factory, all set up, ready to go. Amazing conversations, real powerful stories for a whole hour. Yeah. And then I've basically got a sort of voice recording app, and if you don't kind of click on your phone, it just stops.
Yeah.
I was so gutted.
Oh, mate,
I was so gutted. I said to him, because sometimes you can't repeat something. Like when you have a conversation, there's a beauty in conversation, and you can't script it sometimes. It's just spontaneous, right?
Exactly. It's like I had it with my friend that I went to Ireland to go and see, right?
Yeah.
I done a podcast in Ireland. It was really fun. Oh my gosh. I'm glad that I got what I got, because it was quite funny in the end.
Yeah.
But the first podcast that we filmed was informative. It was deep. It was like a connection between and Limerick, and how we're so similar, and the problems they have over there. And it kind of was just like showing that what they've done to get themselves out of the problems that we have.
Yeah.
Because it feels like they're almost like maybe a step or two ahead on the process of healing in their town. And they use the arts, funny enough. And that's what the whole town is about. It's like, you know, it's just murals everywhere. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Limerick is a stunning place. I highly recommend anybody to go check out
I need to go myself.
Trust me, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's a big place of where, you know, fighting against a man goes on all the time. And they've come to a time now where, you know, a lot of the people who have a say about what goes on in town are from the town. And like, so should it be like that?
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean?
You know what's interesting when you mentioned that? I think there's two things that I can kind of that help me basically when I'm really angry about the world and about things happening in Luton, and that's reading and traveling. So reading books. One of my greatest inspirations is Malcolm X.
Same as Bassett. Bassett loves a bit of Malcolm as well.
He's an incredible man. And I read him when I was 13 years old. And I never read that many books growing up, which is one of my biggest regrets. But I read his book when I was 13. My dad used to talk about the Black Panthers and, you know, the roots and about the slave trade and things like that. And such a powerful, incredible man. You know, his journey, you know, he wasn't born into like this privilege. He wasn't always the best of people in terms of some of the things he did when he was younger, and it's a story that a lot of people can relate to, of changing and becoming a better person. But like reading about some of the issues they had in their community, within the community as well, and also outside the community, there's a lot of lessons you can learn. So reading is one thing. The other thing is traveling, because I've started doing a lot more of that, not just like around the world, but also within the UK as part of my job. And it's brilliant. You know, I went to Devon with some of the guys from Marsh Farm for a thing called Beautiful Days Festival. Where they've got sort of debate and discussion during the day. And then they've got music in the evening, which is amazing. So cool. It's the best combo. And they wanted me to talk about Islamophobia and sort of just my take on it. This was a predominantly white audience, a white middle class audience in Devon. And my dad was like, as a joke, was like, you're not going to be talking about Islamophobia there, mate. They don't give a damn. You know, they're going to beat you up. Because they still have that mentality, a lot of the elders, because that was the experience. And I went there and I met some incredible people who've never really interacted with Muslims or South Asians, and just amazing conversations. While I was there, I learned about the issues they have in Devon around second homes. You know, during the pandemic, because people couldn't travel around the world, they started doing Airbnbs in like the coastal regions. And it meant that local working class people were being priced out. And so I came across these stories, and I ended up writing an article about some of the people I spoke to. And then you look at Brixton, you look at Brick Lane, and you look at the similarities in terms of the struggles they face in terms of housing and gentrification. And then I went a few months later to speak at Shelter, the homeless charity. They had a conference in Wales, and I was joined by people from Cardiff, and they were talking about gentrification and homelessness in Cardiff. And I just thought, wow, like Luton, Brixton, Devon, we're facing the same issues. They might be dressed up in different terms, but fundamentally it's about having a decent place to live in, having food in the fridge, and having a place to call home. And that's what unites people, you know, regardless of where you're from, your background. This is what people want at the end of the day, bread and butter things. And so like it's amazing, because not only do you find out about these issues, but you find out what people are doing about it. And so Liverpool, you know, I'm a Liverpool Football Club supporter. I love going.
I'm sorry, I'm going to hold it in. I knew you was going to say.
I'm quite brave to be bringing that up at this point in the season, but you know, don't worry, man. Don't worry.
That's hilarious.
I take it you're a United fan. Seems like it.
I'm a Luton fan. I'll have you know,
really,
and sometimes a United fan.
There we go. Makes sense. Typical United fans.
No, do you know what? I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story about why I like United. Right? Because basically, I've had this growing up. When I was a kid, breaking news, people, I didn't support Luton Town when I was a kid. Right, I supported Man United when I was a kid growing up, and the reason for that is because none of my family are actually from Luton. I see. I was born and bred in Luton, but all of my family come from all over the place. Mostly London, mostly Stevenage, like them sort of places. But my nan, when she was younger, there was the Munich air disaster
Yes.
in 1957, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was just such a national outpouring of love and support, and United gained a lot of fans during that time from people from all over the world, not just in England, but everywhere.
That's right, yeah.
And my nan was one of them people that fell in love with the team, and she just followed them through thick and thin all them years. And when I was born, luckily, United's fortunes kind of turned quite well, and I've spent quite a large piece of my life living the glorious part. But yeah, as a kid, I didn't get taken to Luton games, so I didn't really have that love and affection for Luton as a young boy. It was only when I was maybe in high school and friends started saying, "Do you want to come? Do you want to come?" Yeah. And then I started going, and then I loved it, and I've never looked back. It's like Luton Town is the best thing. Do you go to many Luton games?
I've actually only been to one, which is probably
you have to go with me.
It's probably really bad.
No, you have to come with me, man. It's the best. For atmosphere.
It is.
I promise you, there's nowhere better. I've said it many times, but last season, the playoff against Huddersfield, we had the home leg. Yeah, it felt like the roof was going to raise. And fly off into the sky.
They're playing very well this season. Every chance they're
well, don't say that. Look what happened last night. Did you see last night?
I mean, the FA Cup game.
3-0 Grimsby.
Put that aside.
Jesus.
We're focused on the Premier League this season.
I hope, I believe they can do it for whatever reason. No luck in the cup, but I think we'll do well.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Like, I always see fans from outside of Luton. They always talk about the stadium. Yeah. And when Luton was close to getting into the Premier League, they were like, "Look at this stadium where you've got there's that path. I don't know what road. I don't know if it's Beach.
Oak Road.
Oak Road. Yeah. And you've got a path, and you're going through someone's sort of garden. With the stairs.
Yeah, when you go through, that's when you go through the away fans.
But that's football heritage right there, because that's what it was. Yeah. These football grounds were built in working class communities, and our football ground is in Bury Park, and this is what people never understand from outside of Luton. They think we're in some sort of civil war because of the stuff they've heard about, like the EDL. Yeah. But actually, it's a melting pot. And you go, when you go on a match day to Bury Park, it's a brilliant mix. Yeah. And I love it.
Never any trouble as well lately. From my experience, when I've gone down in the last few years, I haven't seen any trouble.
No, there hasn't been.
It's always from away fans.
It always was, and even the EDL guys were always from out of town. There was very few of them in the town, and the people on the front line against the EDL in Luton. Well, many of them were white working class people because they grew up around us. Yeah. They're working with us. They They went to school with us, with college with us. Yeah. And they get it. Exactly. They know that there's bad people in every group, and that's it. But I think there was this degree of sensationalism in the media around Luton because it sells. It does. The model of journalism we have in this country.
I feel like there has to be a bad guy.
Of course.
And we're the bad guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's kind of how they portray us. That I guess, I saw this video. I hate mentioning it because I don't like giving power to bad people's names. Yeah. But one of the Tate brothers, right? He came to Luton. Yeah. Can't even remember when it was now. It was a few months back probably. And when he was here, he was just pointing at homeless people, doing a video, pointing at homeless people, picking out cigarette butts and stuff from ashtrays, and just showing people who obviously maybe on some sort of drug or whatever, just picking out the absolute worst bits and then just shouting it down about how horrible and how we are a representation of a failed society. And, in many ways, he's got some good points to make about where things shouldn't be. But at the same time, he had no solutions or suggestions, and he didn't go to any positive places either. He just decided to do what they all do, which is this gets me likes, this gets me views, so I'm going to show you that part, and I'm going to ignore the rest.
But that's how the media operates, because when you think about a publication like the Daily Mail. If they were to talk about something positive, then chances are they won't get as many clicks on their website. When you click on their website, there's adverts. So the more clicks they get, the more ad revenue they generate. Yeah. So if you wanted to make this story about Muslims and how evil they are and there's a plot and you play on people's fears and insecurities, they know that's going to sell. They know that's going to get them the clicks. They know that's going to make them more money. Yeah. And that's what it's about. It's about profit at the end of the day. It's not about any sort of genuine concern about communities or safety or things like that. And even some of these far-right individuals, they're grifters. They made money off the back of these things. They're selling their books about how they're going to deal with the Muslim problem and things like that. And they've got their podcasts and their TV shows and whatever. And they've made a living on the back of our community, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's really bad, man. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to go grab the microphone over here because I think it's going to work now. I might have to pause this quickly as well.
Yeah.
Sorry for... Okay, and we're rolling again. Sorry about that, people. I keep interrupting because I'm just making mistakes all the time in life, making mistakes.
That's perfect. That's
Hey, how do you learn? How do you learn if you don't make mistakes?
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully this is clearer now because I might have sounded like my head was underwater or something. I'm wearing a mask, you know. It's a little bit. You got to cut me some slack. But no, let's talk about the sort of striking stuff and the EIE stuff. Like this is where me and you have really become like friends, I'd say, throughout this time. Yeah. Because obviously I followed you before on my personal account as well. You were part of this group of people who I talk about a lot, who when I first decided to start getting involved with stuff in Luton before the mask, I just wanted to like, I don't know, I got to a point in my life where I was like, I really want to hear what's going on around me. I want to know what's happening in my town. I've lived in this town my whole life and I just don't know what's going on. Yeah. I don't know like how I could maybe help. So I was like, the only way I can find out is if I start exposing myself to these people. So I just started following interesting accounts and you're like one of the first group of people who I came across. Yeah. And I was like, damn, I love how this guy talks. Like, he's so passionate and powerful in his words, and he really, really cares. Just from reading what you say, I could tell that you could go for whatever you want to. You're such an articulate guy. You could work in any newspaper or magazine or TV show, whatever you wanted.
I don't know about that.
No, you really could. You've got a great mind and you talk really well. I've listened to you on stage. You're amazing to listen to talk to. And yeah, you could have gone anywhere, but you chose to stay here and you chose to help out. And, that was really important to me for what I wanted to cultivate in like my knowledge of the town. You're a big part of that. So yeah, that's how I first sort of found out about you. But then you told me about this whole EIE thing and that we was going to do something in Luton. You said, oh, do you want to be involved and help us leaflet and stuff?
Yeah,
and
which you did amazing job. A lot of the people who came to our rally came because of yourself, doing leafleting. And that's great because we rely heavily on social media these days. Yeah. And a lot of people are not on social media. We forget this. And you just have to have that. There's nothing better than a face-to-face conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing better than that. Which was amazing. We had this Enough is Enough event. So Enough is Enough, to give people background.
Yes, please do.
Is a campaign around the cost of living crisis. And it was initially formed in the summer. And just to give some context to it, we had the RMT rail strikes. And I don't know if you remember Mick Lynch.
Oh my God, I love Mick Lynch. I love him so such. He's an incredible guy. He's such an incredible guy.
The leaders of the railway union just really handed it to the media and really, spoke truth to power. And we recognize that you have to connect the struggles of workers with the other struggles as well. Because a lot of people are not in trade unions. So, for instance, another massive thing last year was the energy bills thing. Ridiculous energy prices. So there was a real sense of, inflation soaring. You've got people struggling to make ends meet. You've got workers fighting back. Let's bring all these things together. So that's where the Enough is Enough campaign came in. And the magazine I work for, Tribune, played a big leading role in bringing all these different groups together. We had Acorn, the group representing renters, who really struggled during the pandemic and even now. We got told that we're going to have this big rally in Luton. And we just formed our Luton Tribune Club. So sort of based on the magazine in Luton, literally 2 weeks before we found out that we're going to host this rally. And we had it here in Marsh House in the back. And most of the people who came to this Luton Tribune Club thing were people who'd not really been involved in organising before. A lot of new faces, which was amazing. A lot of people who lived in Luton went to London and came back because of the cost of living. Yeah. And we came together and we organised, and it was brilliant. And there's a real kind of thing about really bonding with someone while you're organising. Yeah. So you're out, you're designing a leaflet, or you're leafleting together, and you're having that conversation. It really brought us together, just organising it. I'll be honest, like on the day of the rally, I was super stressed because not only was I hosting the rally and speaking at the rally, I was also trying to organize, things in the background around leafleting and all that, social media. But also we had a tour of the mosque and the Gurdwara for the speakers. So Zara Sultana, the MP, and Eddie Dempsey were two of our guest speakers.
Amazing, can I just say, I got to meet both of them, and they couldn't be nicer.
Yeah.
Zara was so normal about this.
Yeah.
Like, she must see some crazy shit.
Zara's great.
She's a great girl. And Mike as well, man. Yeah. Oh, what a lovely, welcoming guy. Like, I had a little chat with him whilst we was sat off to the side, and he was such a good guy. And when he spoke, oh my God, the man is so powerful.
Yeah.
You can feel it in the room. The energy just increases that little bit more, and it's like you want to fight with him. Not with him, but for him, alongside him as a brother. Yeah, exactly. 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 That's how I feel when I'm around him. Same with you, man. Like, so having those great people in that room speak, and
it was great.
It was really good.
We had the event in St. Mary's Church, amazing building, by the way.
Beautiful.
But we went to the mosque. So we took the speakers to the mosque, Central Mosque, where Eddie spoke to the kids at the madrasa about trade unions and strikes, which was amazing, speaking to a group of girls who were there for studies about these things. And they also told him about kind of the back then they had the Pakistan flood was a big thing. So they were raising money. So they were talking about that with Eddie. And we took them to the Gurdwara, and I'm sure like the Gurdwara do amazing work.
They do. Do you know what? I still haven't been able to get down there and help. I know they do something on a Sunday night. That's right,
the Sikh soup
kitchen. Do you know what time that is? Because I've messaged them so many times.
Around, well, it varies, but normally around 6 or 7 o'clock.
Okay, people, if you need help, there's a good place to go.
But lovely people who not only do the Sikh soup kitchen, but even like for other faiths, like when it's Eid or Ramadan, they'll provide food. They'll be in Bury Park. And
that's lovely.
They visited the Gurdwara, which is an amazing new building, and spoke to Gerch, who's involved in the Sikh
met Gerch. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Really cool guy.
He's a lecturer in public health, so he was talking to them about some of the things around that, which was great. We took him to Al Quds, which, in my opinion, is the best place to eat in Luton.
Really?
Palestinian food. I love it.
I've never eaten there.
Wow.
Serious? Is it really that good?
It's amazing. Whenever someone comes from out of town, I'll take him to Al Quds. Zara Sultana said it's the best Palestinian food she's ever had.
No way.
She has a lot of Palestinian food.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go and check that out, actually.
Yeah, it was a bit crazy because we took him there. We also had a guy called Shaz Zaman who has an interesting story, actually. He moved away from a life of crime to get involved in community activism, born and bred in Luton, big Luton Town fan, and he was involved in some of the hooligan firms back in the day. And Eddie Dempsey was involved with the Millwall, and Luton and Millwall have a very fierce rivalry, and it caused a lot of issues in Luton in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they're good friends. They set up Luton Football Lads and Lasses Against Fascism. So they had a sort of reunion. So we brought Shaz with us, and he met Eddie, which was brilliant. And, they went to the football ground, well, just outside of it anyway, through Bury Park. So all these things happening, dealing with, like, sorting the food out, getting them to one place to another.
Yeah.
We had a lot of journalists come down as well who wanted to do interviews. It was a very hectic day, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah.
It always does. And that was a testament to people like yourself, all the volunteers. A lot of the volunteers I didn't actually know before organising, and they're still active today. We've got people like Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah's great. She's awesome, girl. Yeah. Can I shout out someone who
go for it.
who became like one of my favourite people during this time is Brenda.
Yeah.
She is such a lovely lady. Like when I was going out leafleting, she was like my buddy. She was my buddy for the leafleting. Me and her done the whole thing together across I think it was like 2 or 3 days we was doing it for. But yeah, like I got to chat to her and really get to know her, and she's a really interesting lady who's got quite a long background in fighting the power.
Yeah.
Right?
And, she's been active in the town for years, and she said this was one of the biggest rallies she's ever seen. But also there was someone called Simon and Georgia organising. People were contributing to go on the radio. To
Glenn as well, obviously.
Glenn was massive. I mean, he always is massive. And everyone knows Glenn in Luton.
Yeah. For right or wrong. And Glenn, he's a good guy. He's an
incredible guy. Yeah. And he's someone you should have on.
I would love to have him on. He's hard to pin down.
I think you need like a 4 seasons with Glenn because there's so much.
He's got so much to talk about. Yeah, I've talked to him a couple of times up here when you know, he's doing band practice or whatever, which is so cool, man. Like, you know, this place provides like a space for that sort of stuff.
I mean, I met Glenn when I was 16 years old.
Okay.
That's when I really kind of got into activism and things like that while I was in college. And I felt like I learned a lot from him and from people involved in like marsh farm outreach. And yeah, to this day, he's always around. He's always up for a chat. He's always there to help me. And even when I went through a difficulty around my mental health, he was there for me.
Oh, that's good.
So you always remember these people. But yeah, you know, we're still active. We've now got another big campaign we're doing around housing, about renters' rights. So we're going to have a big event soon. We had one actually a month ago where we had Loki, the rapper, come down.
No way.
We had quite a few different speakers, and you know, the approach with that thing is actually empowering local people. So not telling people we're going to do this, this, and that, but saying, let's get around the table and let's discuss how we're going to do things. And that's a brilliant way of organizing, because people are in control. There's no hierarchy. Everyone's getting involved. So, you know, Vanessa and Jimmy and some of those local activists, they've been taking the lead on that. And it's great, our model, because they take the lead on the housing stuff. I'll coordinate the picket line solidarity when workers are on strike. And then we've got some people interested in community wealth building. How can we ensure Luton has things that benefit local people? So we're all involved in our own different causes, but ultimately we'll get together and we'll organize and we'll be there for one another. And just to share with you, one of the most amazing things that we did was the Arriva bus drivers were on strike, and they only live a few minutes away. I mean, not live, but
where the depot is.
Based, exactly, a few minutes away from my house. And we invited them here actually to talk about the dispute and what it's all about. So we had bus drivers come down here, and all of our local lot were there. We were listening to them, and we organised the solidarity on the picket line. And my uncle, he's got a food van down the road, so he had like a massive box of pakoras.
I saw this in the group. I see this. That was lovely.
It was lovely, and people were bringing drinks, and it was, you know, it's a very the workforce. The bus drivers are black, Asian, white, and like that was reflected even in the music. Like you had Bhangra music, you had reggae being played. It was great. It was a real great atmosphere, and eventually they won a significant double-digit pay rise, 11%.
Yeah, that's really good, man.
It's a brilliant story, because you don't get these. You know, when you do activism and organizing, it's always very negative. Look at this problem. Look at that problem. Look how crap it all is. But when you see results like that, it's so empowering. Yeah,
because even though the successes are actually few and far between, if you really think about it, but they're so big.
Yeah,
they're not. Just because they don't occur very often. Like, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes before a change actually gets made.
A lot.
And then you get that little win, and then you've got to plan again, all over again. You start again.
But it's
like the strive and the challenge. And I think it tastes so much sweeter when you win. You know what I mean?
It does. And, you know, organising is a very difficult thing. And I think it's important to remember that you don't get results straight away. They take years.
Yeah.
And when I think about, like, Pakistan, for instance, as a country, you know, that was over 100 years in the making. That was like the Indian Mutiny of 1857. That was, you know, Californian farmers, Punjabis in America agitating for independence. That was Muhammad Ali Jinnah coming to London and organising and agitating here, and people losing their lives. And that's the struggle that goes in for something like that.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that even like the battle against racism in the UK, it's an ongoing battle. But we've had wins along the way. Yeah. We've challenged certain things, and we're still fighting.
And the thing is, if you stop fighting for any one moment, the other side will gain momentum, and it will crush you. And this is the thing that people, you know, that get fed up. You know, I just want to say to anybody that gets fed up with people that are striking, you please go and talk to them first before you start getting fed up and angry and spewing bile online about what their agenda is and what they're thinking, because you really don't know. You really don't know, like, what these people are going through to decide to do that. It takes a lot of guts, man, and you can lose your career. And you know, I just think people need to be a bit more wise to when.
Yeah, I think that message is getting through compared to how it used to be, because everyone's on strike, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're a postie right now and you've been taking strike action, you're going to understand the struggles of teachers. You're going to understand the struggles of nurses. You're going to understand the struggles of railway workers. And even if you're not involved in those disputes, I think everyone knows what it's like at the moment with the cost of living crisis.
Could we play a little, like, you know, an imagination game of
Yeah.
what's, because I like to think of these things as to what could be, and I like to take myself to quite dark places with it to see like what the eventuality is.
Yeah.
I mean, if the government continue with the press that they're putting on the people in this country, and they're draining us dry like we're grapes, and they're getting that last drop out of us until the point when we're just shriveled up raisins, right? What happens there? Like, how,
let's give you an example. If we look at the NHS today, we currently have a massive retention and recruitment crisis. People are not joining the nursing profession because they know they're not going to get paid well. People are leaving because they're not getting paid well. And when you've got people leaving and not joining, it means those that still exist in the NHS struggle even more. And if you're someone who uses the NHS, you're going to feel the consequences of that, because there's going to be, a lack of staff. You're going to have longer waiting times. And the junior doctors, every single junior doctor I've spoken to has said that if they don't get a pay rise this year, they will leave the profession. That is a make or break moment for the NHS, because if those people leave, and they will leave because they can get paid triple in Qatar, they can get paid a lot more in Australia, they're not dealing with a lot of the pressures they have there. That means our NHS crumbles. If teachers are leaving the profession, and they are, that means our education system suffers. And this is the thing, it's not just about individual workers, it's about our public services. So what kind of society do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a society where if you're struggling with your health, if you've had a heart attack, you can't get an ambulance anymore because there's not that many ambulance drivers? Or do we want to live in a society where the people who actually build the wealth in this country, who kept us going during the pandemic, who look after us in times of need, are given, adequate money, and because they're given adequate money, they put 110% into everything they do.
Yes.
Of course, we want to live in that society. And people will say, "Oh, yeah, but you can't throw money at this, or you can't throw money at that."
But they do. They throw money at it's the most stupid things.
We lost so much during the pandemic. With all these, just to give you an example, like the dodgy masks. Like the government gave a contract to one of their mates. And the nurses, they couldn't use the masks, and that was £252 million. What would you do with 252 million?
Oh man, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. I'll be dead in a week.
But this is the thing. We are the
I know you mean.
in the world. We've got wealth. We've got money. The problem is it's going to the wrong places. Why are we subsidising MPs' meals when they are the fifth richest? Not the fifth richest, they are in the top 5% of earners in the UK, MPs. We're subsidising their meals as taxpayers.
I know. This is what I've never understood this. Like, I'm not going to call nobody out here, because I don't believe in that unless I have the facts to hand and I can do it. But I look into some MPs, and because you can see their expenses, I didn't know that you could see that. And when I saw you could, I look into everybody's now, and I can't believe the things they claim. Paper. Like, mate, go and buy your own bloody paper, for God's sake. Like, when I've worked in certain jobs, I don't get my parking for free. I don't get my lunch for free.
Exactly.
Like, even sometimes when I've had to work in a certain place, I've even had to put towards the hotel because they're only willing to pay so much. Do you know what I mean?
It's an insult.
It is.
And don't insult our intelligence. If you have received a 28% pay rise since 2010, you get your meals subsidised by the taxpayer. You're claiming all of these expenses on all of these petty things on the station and all the rest of it. And you have the cheek to say to a nurse, sorry, there's not enough money for you.
Or to a school child, sorry, we can't keep giving you free school meals.
Exactly. You needed your guy Rashford to deal with that situation.
How bonkers is that as well? And do you know what? Like, he's, unfortunately, because of the way that people are to him, he's had to kind of step back from all of that a bit because it's affecting his personal life, and obviously his footballing as well. It's kind of, and unfortunately, like, fair play to him for doing what he did during the pandemic for them kids. But he is a footballer.
No, you shouldn't.
He should be playing football.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm glad that he was doing what he was doing. But what I would really like to see is the people that we elect doing them things. Like, isn't that what we're electing them for? To make the place better for our kids.
And this is the thing. I think people forget that we are the ones who create wealth in this country. We are the ones who have the power. Because without us, if we all stopped working for one day, if nurses stop working, if railway workers stop working, if posties stop working, this country will be brought to its knees. this country would not survive.
No.
And that's the issue that the government doesn't seem to understand. That if workers turn around and stop doing what they do, we all suffer.
But then you say that at the same time, they kind of do understand because they try and prevent us from striking.
Exactly. And, that's such a draconian piece of legislation.
And do you know what? I think that what they're doing, it's like, I feel like what they've been doing this whole time, they forget what the power of people can do.
100%.
And they've kind of had this like lion in a cage that they've been poking and poking and poking. And the cage isn't very strong. The lion just needs to get annoyed.
I was literally just visualizing a similar scenario.
Yeah, like the lion's kind of like getting ramped up, and it's like eventually it's just going to go. And when that cage door flies open, because it ain't strong enough to hold him back, that person with a stick isn't going to be so strong anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen riots in the past. You know, people say riots are the language of the unheard.
Yeah.
And as much as like people will condemn the violence and things they see, that is built up rage.
Yeah.
That's uncontrolled. And you have an opportunity to control that rage and to stem it into something useful. And that's why people join trade unions and organize and try and do things the right way. But if somebody, when you're a kid and you're told how to deal with bullies, you're told to ignore bullies. Mm-hmm. But if somebody keeps punching you on your arm, eventually you're going to punch them back. Yeah, it's natural.
Of course,
your body, there's only so much you can take. I know we've all been in a situation where someone's really bugging you. They're really annoying you.
And you might keep calm, you can keep silent for so long.
But eventually you lose it.
Yeah.
And you'll do things that you'll regret.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll regret something, but the people who are going to regret it even more, the people who've done something to you to provoke that reaction.
Yeah.
And that is where I think we will probably head if these politicians don't get their act together.
The thing is that the people deep down, we don't want that in this country.
Of course not.
What we like, we're pretty comforted sort of animals. We've got a lot of the things that we need to get through in life, and there's places where it's starting to not have that, and that's where people are going to start to get angry, is when we lose our comfort, because it's the one thing that you kind of expect with this country is that there is opportunity for everybody, and that you're not going to suffer, that there's a care system that is going to look after you. My gosh, like obviously I talk a lot about my mental health struggles, right? So I'll tell you this now, because I suffer with PTSD, right? And I've been trying to get help for years. Since I was like 23, I've been on and off having therapy, right?
Yeah.
So the other day, I've been waiting for ages for community mental health teams to get through to me to sort me out with therapy and stuff, with a long-term psychiatrist to help me with the PTSD. Because it's not just like, I can't just sit down and have therapy, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't just work with that. There's certain techniques like where you do eye movements and stuff like that. I've heard about the whole thing, but I just don't know. I don't know enough. I need to sit down with an actual guy. I'm not going to go onto YouTube and try and cure my PTSD. Do you know what I mean? So I've done all the right things. I'm waiting in line in this CMH, community mental health team place. And I get a phone call the other day. We've got you some therapy. I was like, oh, thank God for that. Okay, yeah. So when is it? Thinking it's like maybe a couple of months, a year and a half.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a year and a half.
Yeah.
Now, okay. I'm so lucky because with the problems I have, when I put this mask on, it actually lets a lot of my problems go, and it empowers me to be bigger and better than what I am without it. So it kind of is like an anchor where I stay, like, I'm able to maintain my life.
Yeah.
But, if I didn't have all of this stuff, I don't know where I'd be, man. I'll be struggling. I'll be really struggling.
Of course.
There's people out there worse than me.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not going to get help, just the same as I'm not going to get help. There's some people that I talk to who have literally tried to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And then they get put into a crisis unit not crisis unit, they get put through to the crisis team at the hospital.
Yeah.
They're assessed. If you say you're okay, they just let you go.
Of course.
They just let you go. And then they're like, we'll put you through to community mental health team.
Yeah.
A year and a half. Like that person, I'm sorry, but some people just aren't going to last.
They're not. And I've suffered with my own mental health in the past. I had psychosis when I was 17. I spent 3 months in a hospital section under the Mental Health Act. And when you go into these places, I was so unwell at that point that I don't even remember a lot of it. But a lot of the people I spoke to, some of the things they'd endured in terms of abuse and things like that, it was really raw to hear it firsthand. And what I was lucky to get the support, but only because it got so serious that I was in hospital, and when I came out of hospital, I had someone that I would see every week to deal with my mental health situation. I've got friends who struggle with depression, and they've given up on mental health services because they've said, I'm getting passed to this person, and then they're saying we're going to stop doing this service. And we've seen the cuts. You know, the problem we have right now in mental health is that when you look at the worst case scenario where someone ends up sectioned, even in that scenario, they don't have enough beds. So what are they going to do? They're going to let out the person who's the least unwell, and they could still be really, really unwell. And you know, it's just not a sustainable way to run a health service. And with the pandemic, a lot of young people are struggling with their mental health. They've not had interactions. When you're growing up and you're developing, a lot of people have anxiety. They don't feel as confident in themselves. It's a very natural thing. And yeah, it's a huge issue, the mental health system in this country.
And they're overwhelmed and they're underpaid, and some are hungry and cold. And like, how do you expect any of this to work? I mean, like, I've just got to think that they must know what they're doing. You know what I mean? The people that are controlling the money flow into these services, they must know.
Well, let me put it this
way: what is happening?
If you could have an alternative health provision in the UK where people can make a lot of money, would you not want to underfund the current existing system? So people say, bingo, this system doesn't work. It doesn't function. Maybe we should try that one. I mean, it's a standard technique of privatization. Is to underfund a service.
Weaken one to
people get angry,
the other.
And people say, let's try that one.
It's already happening. I mean, I've got a friend who I won't mention his name, obviously, but he was a paramedic, right? He was really struggling with his mental health in the paramedic service, and not only that, the future looked bleak. He's now a private ambulance driver, so you know, gets paid a lot more, and he's got a lot less responsibilities for what he's doing now. So you know,
I mean, even the nurses now, a lot of them are doing agency work. Who owns the agencies? You look into it; they've got links with government ministers.
It's like there's a lot of locums now as well, like locum doctors and nurses and stuff. And do you know what? The way that I foresee healthcare and how it should be is like, what I liked when I was a kid is I knew who my GP was. Do you know what I mean? I have no idea who my GP is now. I have no idea. I've got a different doctor every time, and I never see the same one twice. I've got to assume that that's a lot of locums that I'm dealing with. And I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea to cover sickness and stuff like that. But then at the same time, like, we've just lost touch with that community doctor who knew everyone. He knew all of his patients. He could tell you what your life history was. And that is so much more helpful in terms of your healthcare. But yeah, to think that like that kind of side is being dwindled away as well. And like you say, it is all to do with taking away from the one that we currently have to create the opportunity. Because ultimately, if we've got the choice, say people that have money, it's not about we've got the choice. If the people that have money have the choice between going to an AHS hospital that's underfunded, where, you know, you've got more chance of getting probably more unwell if you go to a place like that, then you go to a private care where the doctors are trying their best because they're getting paid very, very well. And they're not tired because they're working regular shifts.
I spoke to a junior doctor the other day, and we were talking about privatization, and he studied the American health system, and he said it's crazy there because they've got a massive like opiate crisis. You've got people in pain who can't afford to get healthcare, and they're turning to hard drugs to numb pain. It's an incredible situation up there.
That's where we're heading.
Do we want to end up like that? No, that's what I ask people.
I know, and I don't know how anyone could. It could. The only reason why I can think why they're doing this is malicious, and they don't care. They don't care that we are going to lose people through this, and you're going to turn areas that were at one point underprivileged into slums and ghettos. Because we talk about like we have that in the UK. We really don't. When you look around the world, we do not have a slum or a ghetto in this country. And to the
not to the same extent.
No, not to. We have bad places. Exactly. Now, what we are creating is we are creating an opportunity for that to occur over here, and where things will be so bad in a certain part of town, they'll say, just forget about that area. Let's do this. We've got the nice part and we've got the bad part, and you stay on the good part because you got money, and we'll just keep the bad ones away from you. And we'll increase the police presence in that area.
We're seeing that already in the UK. Grenfell Tower, you look at the disaster and you look at where it is. Grenfell Tower is located in the wealthiest borough in London, Kensington and Chelsea. It's also the most unequal borough in London. And you've got these really, really expensive flats, private studios, where you've got wealthy people coming into the area. And then you've got the council housing. And one of the reasons they put the flammable cladding on Grenfell Tower is because the rich people were saying, we don't want to see that eyesore, put it in something. And we're seeing it. And you look at Brazil, and it's the most stark contrast with the favelas. And then you've got all these big high rises where you've got the rich living side by side. And that's how capitalism operates. It operates on the basis that in order to have winners, you've got to have losers. In order to exploit, you've got to have someone to exploit. And that's the world we live in, both globally. When you look at the reason you can get cheap Primark shirts is because you've got a Bangladeshi in a sweatshop working to produce that good. And the reason they sell it so cheap is because somebody's going to make a lot of money on top of it. So you've got these people who are profiting off the misery of others. And that takes place on a local level, on a national level, and an international level.
It happens everywhere you go. I mean, I was watching a podcast recently about is it lithium? Lithium in the Congo.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. I mean, we're filming right now on a device, 2 devices that contain lithium for the battery. And it gets, I think it was like 70% of it comes from these places in the Congos. And apparently Apple and Google and all these different firms, they state that they don't agree with child labor or slavery or all of this stuff. And in the Congo, there are literally pits where there are thousands and thousands of people who are on pennies a day, who have no safety equipment, and they're dealing with toxic lithium, which is killing them, right? And there's children working in there. It's mad. It's actually mad. Like, they call them artisan workers, I think it is. And that's like someone who, just has his pick and his shovel. He's just a local guy. He doesn't have gloves. He doesn't have something to stop him breathing in the particles. And, he's going to die a young man.
But you know what? It's interesting because even in this country, in the UK, we have conditions that are so horrible for workers. And when I say that, I'm talking particularly about agency work and factories and warehouses in the UK. So currently I'm looking into the Amazon warehouses and how people are unionizing. And, I spoke to people who were telling me how there was a warehouse in Rugley in Staffordshire, and there was a lady, she used to commute 2 hours just to get there, 2 hours to get back. When you get into the factory, they've got 1 toilet on the first floor, ground floor, and it's 4 floors, and it's the size of like 11 football pitches. And they've got a scanner, right? And as soon as you use the scanner, you're getting tracked. It's surveillance technology that Amazon employs. So if she needs to go toilet, she'll be told, you've got 2 minutes. They're getting timed toilet breaks. And so she'll leave her cart and her crate. She'll go all the way. She'll be running down to get to the toilet. And then she's getting a message, beep, beep. Where are you? What are you doing? Report to the desk. And that's how they're treated. They're surveilled like they're robots. And everything's about, just as you said, just extracting. They're getting abused. A lot of the people working in these warehouses are people from other countries. English is not a first language. They're getting, even in myself, like I worked in a factory in Luton, bread factory, and treat you like crap, 12-hour night shifts. In the agency, when I was in my second year of college, I went to one of the agencies in town. And just for a summer job, I thought I'd work in the Amazon factory. And the lady's clicking, hurry up, just.
So
there's
rude.
One thing that's
so rude.
There's one thing where you're struggling to make ends meet. There's another thing about the indignity of working in those places where you feel like you're being dehumanized almost. And so we have these things happening in the UK today. These struggles, and then you look at the people who own these Jeff Bezos.
I know how
luxury
rich.
Yachts. I don't hate on people who are successful, but I hate on people who base this success on the exploitation and struggles of other people. I mean, this guy's engaged in billionaire space races while you've got Amazon workers struggling. I've heard of stories of people dying in some of these places, and these people are living in a completely different world.
And what's the deal though? Like, how does he live day to day? How can he go to sleep at night does he even know this information? Is it just being kept from him? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is what my question is when it comes to these sort of people. Because I couldn't possibly do something
Yeah.
in the knowledge that then I'm directly harming somebody. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to think that as long as I'm in my completely sound mind, that I'm going to make the right choice at the right time to protect people. And to think that anyone can live in that much luxury whilst people are suffering is just beyond me.
I mean, it's more than just that, isn't it? Because it's directly causing, that suffering.
Yeah.
Your privileged lifestyle and the things you get to do are built on the backs of the struggles of those people.
That's horrible.
And people sometimes say to me, left-wing people, they're just jealous and envious. They don't take responsibility. They were always crying about things. I hear this a lot. And the thing is, I work hard. I work 7 days a week. I spend my weekends doing my South Asian history stuff.
Yeah.
I do things like this. I'll do my organizing. But that doesn't mean I'm going to turn around and say to someone who earns less than me that you're not earning this because you're not working as much as me. You're not earning as much, right? I always tell people, if you believe in something, put 100% in.
Yeah.
I don't believe that if you want to achieve something that you'll get anywhere without doing anything. But I do believe that we have a current system in place which rewards wealth and privilege.
Yeah.
And you have to acknowledge that. And
do you know what I always think back to? There was a study a long time ago, and it was about the happiness of places.
Yeah.
And I think Costa Rica was classed as the happiest place in the world, right? And their financial situation was abysmal. Their country is in so much debt. It's crazy. The standard wage, person to person, was horrible. But the people of Costa Rica are like this, The community is so strong. And people do the things that make them happy. Not the things that make them money. They do the things that make them happy.
Yeah.
And overall, the happiness in that place is better. Like, I don't know why we're not following that model.
Yeah, I mean, I had a kind of reflection. When I visited Morocco, I went to Fez with a friend, and I was living in the old Medina, which is like the largest car-free zone in the world. And you always get lost there because there's so many alleyways. And so there were people there, young kids, and they're sort of trying to hustle, basically. So one of the hustles is that you basically give people directions and then you ask for money, right? And so you're always warned on like TripAdvisor and stuff. Like, don't go to those guys. They're fake guides, and just use Google Maps. And you can't really get internet there, so you don't have a choice. And so initially, I found it a bit annoying when people were like, "Oh, brother, you know what? Let me show you around," and things like that. They were the loveliest, friendliest people I've ever come across. Really nice people that I really got on with. And eventually, I came to a realization, and I thought, what am I actually giving these people? Because for me, it's nothing, right? In Morocco, you look at the standard of living, it's very different.
Yeah.
Am I really going to die by giving people money because they're trying to hustle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's got to eat.
Yeah, exactly. If that's the only thing, if that's the only way that kid's going to eat that night, then man, I'd give you some money to eat.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So when I spoke to some of these guys, and you hear the way they're living, it really hits you. It's like, you can understand, I don't promote crime, I don't promote drug dealing, and I don't promote any of that stuff. But like in the UK, for instance, if the education system hasn't gone well for you, if you grew up in a family where it was difficult, right? You didn't have anyone to kind of guide you and influence you. Yeah. And you're being screwed over in an Amazon factory, and you're getting like £70 in a day. And you can make a lot more money doing something else.
Maybe a bit nefarious.
You can understand
100%.
Why, especially if you're in debt.
The thing is, we've grown up in this town, Let's not beat around the bush, right? Yeah. Like, there are people out there that are doing bad things, but then they have grown up without role models.
Yeah, they haven't.
They haven't grown up with people who tell them, read books. Yeah. Yeah, they haven't grown up with people that tell them, do community stuff, like, help your family, like all the positive things that make your life well-rounded and better. Yeah,
it's a big thing. I want to talk about this more because one thing about me is we didn't have a lot growing up. My dad was quite ill; he had health problems. He used to work in a Vauxhall factory, but I did have a stable family environment. I had my mum and dad around. My dad always pushed education, and a lot of my friends never had that. Their parents might have earned more money than me. But they had unstable families. They witnessed domestic violence. They had, some people had alcoholism in the family and things like that. And, Leagrave, where I kind of grew up, and I used to work in a taxi base here, and I used to see a lot of things. And, some of my friends weren't always doing the right thing, and they were still my friends, right? So
yeah, of course.
But like all of them had issues going on back in the household.
Yeah.
And one thing I realised about the gangs that operate in Luton is that a lot of the young kids that get influenced by gangs, they really feel like they're part of a family.
Yeah.
They feel like someone's got their back. This is our ends. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is my postcode.
yeah.
This is my community. And we're going to look after each other. And that other community, they're on to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's a sense of like a pride almost.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of those kids were like good kids who went down the wrong road. They got influenced by the wrong people. And it's so sad to see.
Do you know what? The loyalty that they show to their gang and to their area, if you could transform that into our community and our town, how much more powerful are we as a people? Do you know what I mean? And that's where, like, we need to realise this as a town.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know, people that are higher up and have a bit more power that can do things can help us in that, because there's a lot of brilliant people in this town specifically, and especially from places where pain is caused. Because, like you say, the wanting to belong, it's stronger when you've been left behind.
It is.
When you've never had. I mean, I can speak about this personally from my own life experience. That you know, I fell into a really bad crowd when I was when I was about 15, 16. I screwed up the end of school.
Yeah.
I was doing bad things.
Yeah.
And you know, luckily I decided before I was 20, I was like, this isn't going great.
Yeah.
I can see what's happening to my friends, and I had a good partner at the time, and she got me away from it. Luckily, I was very, very lucky.
Yeah.
But a lot of my friends, man, they're in prison, or like, you know, some of them are worse off than that.
This is it. And I had my friend, his younger brother basically went down the wrong path, and he basically brought a knife into school, and he got excluded from school. So he was doing like the alternative provision.
Yeah.
And I used to like take him to the town library when I used to study, because he was a smart kid who just fell into the wrong crowd, and he had a lot of potential. He was really good at science. So I used to take him with me. And then when it came to college, he was told that he couldn't do A-levels because of bad behavior in the past. And that basically screwed him over.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
He was really, really wanted to get into the sciences, but just because of a mistake he'd made years ago, they held that against him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, he dropped out of college eventually. He didn't go to university. And it's a sad story. You know, people being expelled from school for things they did in the past.
When they're children, man.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, I've done some really stupid shit in my time.
Yeah.
And I've done most of it when I was a kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And luckily, people don't know about any of that stuff. Otherwise, then I might be...
You can't give
you
up
know what
on
I mean?
people.
I've got friends who have been in some of the worst situations, like where they've done some really horrific things.
Yeah.
And they served their time for it, and then they came back. And then, do you know what? They learned something.
Malcolm X.
Yeah, man.
Malcolm X went to prison.
Real.
What did he do in prison? He was reading books.
Yeah.
He copied out the entire dictionary.
Yeah, you shouldn't just write someone off. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the most important part of this. Is like writing people off for things that they've done. You know, you can judge all you want, but realistically, you're not living in that person's position. You
100%.
don't. All you're living on is assumptions in what you're going to make about that person. So realistically, just give them a chance. Give them a chance to show if they're trying to show already. Yeah. Give them that chance to show that they're doing something good in their lives. You know, obviously, if they start messing up again, then there's a different story. Of course. But at the same time, everybody should have another chance, man.
Yeah, because what happens when that kid is excluded from school? Where do they go?
Yeah, exactly. They go into open arms of gang crime and into the arms of drugs and into the arms of homelessness.
I mean, what else do they have going for them? They've got nothing else. They've got no education system.
Possibly no support system.
Yeah. I mean, where are they getting their money?
Yeah, exactly. You got to eat somehow.
And then when you go to prison, what happens? Who
you
speaking to? And,
you get fed as well.
There's two ways. You can either become even worse in prison, or you become a better person.
Yeah.
And if you've got no support system, if you've got no one looking after you, checking up on you, you know, it's a cycle basically.
Yeah, and it gets very comfortable. What I was saying about getting fed. I mean, for these kids, this is the thing where I can't feel bad at them for what they're doing, because they've already been left behind. But then not only that, they're being taught that you can come to prison and I'm going to look after you. Yeah. Firstly, I'm going to look after you. Yeah. And then I'm going to introduce you to people who have done worse things than you, and now I'm going to make you worse in part because of that. So I'm going to make you comfortable with doing nothing. Yeah. And you know, I'm going to get you to do some jobs and stuff for me at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Because that's kind of a part of it as well. More so in America, but
and the
over
other
here
thing
we've
to
got a
say
little
here
bit.
is that the biggest criminals in the world wear suits and ties.
Yeah,
they're not
100%.
a kid selling weed in a street corner.
No.
The people who commit the biggest crimes. I mean, even in Luton, I'm not going to go into the details and names, but there are people who are milking funds, taking money out of our community, corruption, embezzlement of funds.
Well, yeah, me and Bassett talked about this slightly.
It's a big issue.
We can't talk about names or anything of that.
But let me tell you this: like, these are people who will be seen as respected members of the community. You know, they'll be dressed really smart. They might have amazing manners. And people will look up to these people and say, look, they've achieved great things. And their money and income is based on all of these dodgy things, exploitation, you know, lining their own pockets and all the rest of it. And then they have the cheek to turn around and say, look at that kid, that useless, hopeless kid in a hoodie who's involved in a gang.
And they've taken out of a charity or out of a fund or whatever
loads of things. And it happens locally, but it also happens, I mean, we've seen it with the government and
Matt Hancock, great
contracts.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the real crime, in my opinion, that really causes issues.
Oh man, this is just so depressing. But look, let's finish on something positive. Yeah. So, what's going on for EIE and Tribune Magazine? What have we got coming up in the future?
Yeah, I mean, the Enough is Enough campaign. We've got this big housing campaign that we're doing locally. We're quite autonomous. We're sort of doing our own thing. But another amazing thing that's happening is like there's this football fans supporting food banks.
Okay.
So Ian Byrne, amazing MP in Liverpool, he set up this thing where he brought the Liverpool and Everton football fans together, and they would just get fans to donate for the food banks locally. And it's just an easy thing where you can grab a tin or something and just give it to a food bank. And that's starting to be replicated in other towns and cities. In Newcastle as well, it's become a thing. So you know, people are coming together and doing what they can to make a difference. We've done a lot of work locally in terms of the renters' rights campaign. So, you know, recently we had lawyers in, we had community activists who've defended people from evictions, giving people advice, and, you know, we're going to start having more frequent meetings and things like that. We've got people in the council on board with us now, like Tom Shaw, amazing local councillor in Shawnee. He's in charge of housing and he's really on board as well. So, you know, there's that going on. There's the picket line solidarity. In terms of what I do with Tribune Magazine, we've released our recent issue on Enough is Enough.
What was it, £10 for 4 issues?
So,
is that it?
Yeah,
is that the deal? Yeah,
that was it's a bargain because
that is a bargain.
The printing and all that.
That is a bargain.
So yeah, of course I'm going to promote the magazine.
Yeah, of course, bro. That's why I said it. That's why I wanted you to say something.
I mean, I interviewed nurses, railway cleaners, you know, junior doctors.
It's a place where you get to hear real stories.
Yeah,
you know? That's I really like it. Yeah,
that's the kind of writing I do. Is I'll interview people, and I'm not going to just say, "Here's this dispute and it's happening on this day." I'm going to say, "Tell me about your life. What's a day in the life like for you? What are some of the issues you face, and what can we do about it?" So there's a lot of that stuff going on. I mean, the Amazon stuff was amazing. It was the first time in British history that they voted to go on formal strike. And it's really hard to unionize in Amazon warehouse. Because
the threat.
The staff turnover is big. You've got lots of people from migrant backgrounds. And I was chatting to one of the workers and she was just saying, like, the way they organized is they had like this leadership of workers in the factory in Coventry. You had a Pakistani, you had an African, you had 2 Romanians, and they were able to bring different parts of the factory together and organize. And I went to Coventry to cover it, and it was amazing to like just chat to the workers who'd never been involved in unions before, feeling empowered. So lots of organizing happening in workplaces, lots of organizing in housing, and you know, people always say that it's the struggle that brings out, you know, the geniuses, that brings out the good things as well. Like when you go through hardship, you know, when things get really, really bad, that's when people will rise up and say enough is enough, and that's what the campaign's all about. That
was amazing, bro. That was such a good little bit how you ended it. It was like, enough is enough. It's like this guy works for them. Nah, honestly, Taj, I've had such fun doing this with you, man, and we've got to catch up again.
No, I enjoyed it.
I seriously do. And like anything that I can do to help you, you know, I'm here.
You're always here for us, man. We appreciate you, man.
Oh, bro, thank you so much. But yeah, thank you everybody that's been listening. If you're still here, if you're asleep, I don't know. I hope that you found us both interesting, because I find this guy amazing, and I hope that you guys do too. Because what we need is we need more people like Taj out there. So listen to me. Get off your butt. Yeah. Sign up to the Tribune magazine. Sign up to EIE. Come and help us. Support us at the strikes. Support us at the marches. If you don't, I'm coming for you. All right. But for everyone else, I love you, Luton. Bye.
Take care.
My man. Thank you very much. That was fun.